Have you ever learned a new English word only to forget it a few minutes later? Or maybe you understand English grammar, but when someone speaks naturally, your mind goes completely blank. Perhaps you translate every sentence from your native language before speaking, and by the time you found the right words, the conversation has already moved on. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. The truth is, the fastest way to improve your English isn't by memorizing hundreds of vocabulary lists or studying grammar for hours. It's by listening to stories. Stories help your brain learn English naturally, just like children learn their first language. You understand words through context, remember them for longer, and begin thinking directly in English instead of translating every sentence. So here's what I'd like you to do. Sit back, relax, and simply enjoy today's story. Don't worry if you don't understand every single word. That's completely normal. Just keep listening. By the end of this video, you'll learn several useful English expressions, understand them naturally through a real-life story, test yourself with a short quiz, and, most importantly, take one more step toward thinking in English with confidence. Let's begin. It was Monday morning. Ryan stood in front of his bedroom mirror, adjusting his tie one last time. Today wasn't just another day. It was the day of his biggest job interview. For months, he had been preparing for this opportunity. He had practiced interview questions, updated his resume, and imagined this moment countless times. Even so, he couldn't stop feeling nervous. He looked at himself, smiled quietly, and whispered, "You can do this." The interview was scheduled for 10 o'clock. Since he arrived early, he decided to stop by a small coffee shop just a few minutes away from the office. As he stepped inside, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Soft music played quietly in the background. A few people sat near the windows, reading newspapers or working on their laptops. The atmosphere felt peaceful. Ryan ordered a cappuccino and found an empty table near the corner. He placed his resume on the table and began reading through it one final time. He wanted everything to be perfect. But as he reached for his cup, his elbow accidentally hit it. The cup tipped over. Coffee spilled across the table and onto his papers. Ryan immediately stood up. "Oh no," he sighed. Before he could react, someone standing nearby handed him a stack of napkins. "It's all right," the man said with a warm smile. "It happens to everyone." Ryan looked up. The man appeared to be in his 60s. He wore a simple blue shirt and carried a cup of black coffee. "Thank you," Ryan replied, feeling slightly embarrassed. The older gentleman chuckled. "I've spilled coffee before important meetings more times than I can remember." Ryan laughed. "I guess I'm not the only one." "Definitely not." The man pulled out the chair across from Ryan. "Mind if I sit here for a minute?" "Of course." They began talking. The man asked, "So, what brings you here this morning?" Ryan explained that he had a job interview nearby. He admitted he was nervous. "I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time." The man nodded. "What makes you want this job?" Ryan thought for a moment. "It's not just about the salary," he said. "I want to grow. I want to learn. And I want to work somewhere that challenges me every day." The older gentleman listened carefully. He never interrupted. He simply smiled and nodded as Ryan spoke. After a few more minutes, Ryan looked down at his watch. His eyes widened. "Oh no, I'm going to be late!" He quickly gathered his papers, placed them inside his bag, and stood up. "It was really nice talking with you." "You too," the older man replied. "Good luck today." Ryan hurried across the street toward the office building. His heart was beating faster with every step. He entered the reception area, checked in, and was asked to wait outside the interview room. A few minutes later, the receptionist smiled. "They're ready for you." Ryan took one deep breath. Then he opened the door. The moment he walked into the room, he stopped. Sitting at the head of the interview table was the same gentleman from the coffee shop. Ryan couldn't believe his eyes. The older man smiled warmly. "Well, we meet again." Ryan felt his face turn red. I didn't know." The interviewer laughed kindly. "I'm glad you didn't." Ryan looked confused. The interviewer continued. You treated me with kindness before you knew who I was. You spoke honestly. You stayed calm after making a mistake. And you respected a complete stranger. He paused for a moment before saying, skills can be taught. Experience can be gained. But character is much harder to find. Ryan smiled. Suddenly, all of his nervousness disappeared. The interview became less like a test and more like a conversation. They discussed Ryan's experience, his goals, and his ideas for the future. When the interview ended, Ryan thanked everyone and left the office feeling hopeful. 1 week later, his phone vibrated. An email had arrived. The subject read, "Job offer." Ryan smiled as he opened the message. He had been selected. As he looked out the window, he remembered the unexpected conversation in the coffee shop. That morning taught him something he would never forget. Sometimes, every conversation is an interview. Every person you meet deserves kindness, because you never know who they are or how they might change your life. Now, let's review some useful expressions from today's story. The first expression is, take a deep breath. This means to relax before doing something stressful. For example, I took a deep breath before giving my presentation. The second expression is, knock over. This means to accidentally make something fall. For example, he knocked over his glass of water. The third expression is, it happens to everyone. This is a comforting way to tell someone that everyone makes mistakes. For example, don't worry, it happens to everyone. The fourth expression is, my heart was beating fast. This means you were feeling nervous or excited. For example, my heart was beating fast before my driving test. Finally, we meet again. This expression is used when you unexpectedly see someone another time. For example, so, we meet again after all these years. Now, let's see how much you remember. Why did Ryan go to the coffee shop before his interview? Was it A, to meet a friend, B, to have coffee before the interview, or C, to buy a newspaper? The correct answer is B. Next question. Who helped Ryan after he spilled his coffee? A, the waiter, B, another customer, or C, the interviewer? The correct answer is C. And the final question. What is the main lesson from today's story? A, always arrive early. B, never drink coffee before an interview. Or C, treat everyone with kindness because you never know who they are. The correct answer is C. Excellent work! If you understood most of this story, your English is already improving. And if you didn't understand every word, that's perfectly okay. The more stories you listen to, the easier English becomes. That's exactly how fluency is built. If you enjoyed learning English through stories, subscribe to English Scorecard, because every week you'll hear new stories that improve your listening, expand your vocabulary naturally, and help you start thinking in English instead of translating every sentence. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.